All right, so we should be live on all platforms. Like I mentioned to you guys before the call, on the top left, you'll see the likes and you'll also see the views. You'll see like an eyeball, and it tells you who's watching. It won't tell you exactly who unless they comment, but if there's like a one, that means we have one person
All right,
watching.
so we should be live on all platforms.
Um, so before we start, I just want to, if you guys can go on your Facebook and share it. So that way most people can tune in from your friends and profile. So I'm gonna show that now. All right, cool. So we're here Tuesday Talks. This is episode 5. I think this is gonna be a dope one because we have the most people I've ever had on one, and we're talking about something really, really important. Everyone on this call I find to be really, really dope. Like you guys are literally leading the future and to the leading the youth to the future. And you guys are on the front lines, so I really wanted to get in front of anyone on the front lines when it comes to education and see where your mind is at, where your head is at when it comes to education and COVID-19 and how it's affecting learning going forward. So before we get into questions and stuff, I want, if you guys don't mind, if you can just introduce yourself and what grade you teach and what classes you teach. Omar, I'll start with you.
All right, cool. Omar McCray. I teach 7th grade ELA, Bronx, New York. I've been teaching for about 8 years now.
Oh. Des, you can go.
Desmond Turner. I teach 10th grade global history and then 12th grade government and economics. I'm going into my 11th year just in education.
Oh, thanks. Brianna?
I'm Brianna Taylor, and I teach every subject this year. This is my first year teaching social studies, so math, ELA, social science, social studies, and then this is my 3rd year I'm going into.
Nice. And you said you teach where, in the Bronx?
Yes, I teach in the Bronx.
Dope.
That's cool.
Lewis?
Hi, everybody. I'm Louis Mercedes. I teach 3rd grade ELA, reading social studies, out here in Houston, Texas. I started my first year teaching in Brooklyn, relocated, and this is my 6th year of teaching.
6 years? Wow, it's been 6 years already? Sheesh.
Yeah, it's been 6 years. For the most part, I taught 2nd grade, and then I've been teaching 3rd grade for the past 3 years.
That's what's up.
All right, Teresa?
I'm Teresa Whitley. This is actually year 7 teaching. 7 is my favorite number, so it's crazy that this starts year 7. I'm an elementary school teacher, and this year I'll be teaching 4th grade again.
Dope. So I appreciate you guys joining. Like I said, I really admire you guys' work, and you guys are literally guiding the future. I don't, me just having 2 kids, I'm wondering if I would have had patience to be a teacher, honestly. My son is a firecracker. I love him to death, but he's running around everywhere, and I don't know how you guys do it, but so much power to you guys. Lewis, I'm always talking to Lewis, and he gives me advice this is normal. Don't worry about it. So Lewis has really been a good resource to me, and Teresa, you know how Mason feels about you. So I appreciate that. So I want to just jump right into it. Right now we got 16 people, so I want to thank everybody tuning in. This is an open forum, so if you have any questions, feel free to put them on the chat wherever you logged in from. I'll just highlight them the way you see them right now, and that's where the question will show. The forum, our panel will just go ahead and answer those questions as they see fit. I'm trying to make this more conversational than an interview-based thing. So, but I have questions I want to ask just to guide the discussion. And the first question I want to start with is, where did your mind go when COVID hit? And did you guys immediately think about teaching and what's going to happen with that, or what happened once it finally hit and it was a widespread thing? And I'll let you guys feel that as you want. If you guys want to answer that.
I guess my mind just went to not knowing what happened, how I feel, but then also thinking about the kids. If I'm uncertain, what do they feel like, especially teaching elementary school? I actually tend to know a lot of students in the school that I've never taught. So just thinking what does relationship look like? How does that factor into the day-to-day? In March, we didn't know much, but then going through the summer and even now, still focused on how does this affect the kids? What does that look like when they return?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of what Teresa said. So funny enough, when the coronavirus was really becoming a thing and started making a lot of headlines everywhere, this was like over here in Texas. It was the final week before spring break, so it was like that first week of March, and I'm gonna say it was like that Thursday, Friday. Brain Pop, they had released an instructional video talking about the coronavirus. And if you guys aren't familiar with Brain Pop, it's a great resource. It's just a bunch of animated videos, and you
Yeah,
can
I'm about
guys,
to ask what that was.
yeah, yeah. There's Brain Pop and Brain Pop Junior. So I had a discussion with my kids because a lot of them were asking a lot of questions, lots of uncertainties, and then we had just gotten the first case over here in Sugarland, and it was just so weird because even after the video, I'm just reassuring them, calming them down, and kids are like, was this going to be like the Black Death? Because there's so many people that died during the plague, and I didn't know. None of us knew that it would get to this extent. So I just told the kids, listen, back then, hundreds of years ago, we didn't have the technology that we do now. So I'm sure that we'll all be back after spring break, and we'll all give each other high fives and hugs, and we can laugh about it. Lo and behold, spring break comes, and we get a call that right, the district is closed for 2 weeks. 2 weeks becomes a month, and then before you know it, we have to just reframe our thinking as far as how we're going to deliver instruction, what the kids are going through, just like Teresa said, because the social emotional impact, everybody has some form of PTSD right now, whether you're a parent, a teacher, an essential worker in the health industry. So it's been a whirlwind of emotions because everything has just been about transitioning and adapting and doing it at a fast pace.
So how would you guys say that your schools had prepared from the beginning? Were they communicating with you right away, saying we're coming up with a plan here and what we're going to do for the future? Was virtual learning like introduced right away, or was that like a something that just came up along the way and they were just like, I have an idea? How did that end up being introduced? Because I have a question related to that, but I want to see when it got introduced, the virtual learning aspect of it, and how did you guys react to it?
Well, I'll start off with that. I know from my school, my previous school where I was teaching at, it was on the day. So it was that March 13th. So we just sat in the classroom and we just they just came up with this plan to put everything on Google Classroom. And then after that, Google Classroom was everyone's best friend and worst enemy and all that good stuff because it was hell, right? So trying to wrap your minds around that and then trying to, compartmentalize, your own personal feelings towards everything and then trying to teach, that was a battle every day. And then you're uncertain, you're not knowing what's going to happen, you know what I'm saying? So just teaching for the day to day. And even that was a stretch. So I say all that to say there was no strategic plan. It was just you making it up as you went along.
Kind of winging it. Because it's the first time everyone's been through something like this. So there was no real, from what I was saying, there wasn't a real like launch or a strategic plan. I don't feel like all of the schools or all of the school heads got together to just say, how can we tackle this? Because it was just so new. Anybody else? How did you guys handle it?
To piggyback on Omar with the DOE, I don't know who works with the DOE here, but it was more. Oh, okay.
I did.
So it was more. We were actually going to go back to school. Like, we were going to be in person, and then we got switched pretty quick. And then we end up having to still go in the building and have I think a few days, maybe 2 or 3 days, to really put everything online and then switch over to virtual before all the other kids started the following week. So I know with me it was a little easier because I was kind of used to doing a lot of virtual stuff anyway. I had a lot of programs I used, Class Dojo, Edmodo, a lot of these programs that were out there that I kind of just transferred over, but they made everything had to be on one platform. So you had to put everything on Google Classroom and then work from there. I didn't get to answer the one before, but I think a lot of when COVID hit, it was already difficult for me to kind of understand, all right, what's going on here? And then I have 2 kids of my own. So there was a lot of stuff that I'm thinking about that. And then also I work in a District 75 school, and a majority of our kids suffer from depression, anxiety already from the jump. So I'm already thinking about, okay, if they're dealing with pressures before this, I can't even imagine what they're dealing with right now. And I don't know what is going to happen when we go back and how it's going to be like. So I'm almost preparing myself for kind of what I'm walking into when I go over there. But one of the things with that, I noticed that for a lot of those students that are successful in the classroom, they were not as successful with virtual learning. And then also vice versa. I had the kids that suffered from social anxiety in the classroom, but then excelled with virtual learning. Like one kid handed me every assignment every single week. Like I was like, wow, where did you come from? Because you weren't there during the year, you know? So he knew his stuff and he was on point. But, you know, I don't think it was a one size fits all type of thing with virtual learning. It's definitely like it can benefit some, and then for others, it's detrimental who would be successful one-on-one.
So I do have my first question from the comments, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to add any other additional comments before I jump to the first question. I think it's a perfect segue, actually, Des, with the first question.
Actually, it was chaos at first. Sorry, it was chaos for me because at first we sent the kids home and with packets, and we literally started. We got the notice that we weren't coming back for 2 weeks. At first, it was 2 weeks, and they said that it's best to make packets, and the packets were like this thick, and there were like at least 3 of them. So we had to send them home, and we had to get that done within a matter of about 4 hours. So the kids couldn't leave until we handed out the packets, and then that was the plan for at that moment. And then 2 weeks passed. We realized we're not going back in. We had to change everything online. And then we had to come back into the school to hand out Chromebooks. So it was just, at first, it was all over the place. And I really felt bad for the kids because I was more concerned about their mental health. Because I knew at the moment, a lot of my kids were going through a lot of, family stuff. So it's hard for them to stay home. A lot of them didn't want to go home for the 2 weeks at first. They were like, can we stay here? And I'm like, no, you can't stay here. I'm not going to even be here. So it was a lot to adjust to. So that's why I was concerned a lot of going into this school year, and I'm still concerned to this day, but we'll talk about the future later.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I think the first question would be perfect to tie into that. And that's Suli, she's asking, do you find remote learning to be effective? I know some of you haven't even started yet.
I started.
Yeah, so based on that, like how much experience do you have with it, and do you find it to be effective, or do you think it's too early to tell?
Well, given we had to teach remotely last time, I didn't find it to be effective because there was no concrete metric to weigh on the progress of your scholars that you're teaching, right? Because there was no way to gauge or see where they're learning, where they're improving, because it fluctuated. You know what I mean? There were scholars who were doing really well in the classroom, but when they got home, particularly remote learning, they struggled because of the constructs of their home. Maybe it was just too crowded, whatever the case is. So there was no consistent way to really, record progress. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't, it's not conducive to a scholars, to different types of learners, right? Because that's what you have to cater to as well, and it doesn't really.
Anybody else started remote learning, and do you agree?
I didn't start, but we worked in the summer and then in the fall, and as I said before, like it really depends on the kid. Like if you come and in the home and in the background, as what was saying, like if they have access to computer, if they have involved parents. And if they're bright already and they're intelligent students, this is easy to them. They don't have to worry about. They can go on their own pace. What we did is we gave them 3 different options of assignment, and then we allowed them to choose, and we were there helping them out and try to go on live and do videos with them, and one or two maybe show up, but after that, like, it's on the end of, at least in my opinion, on my end, I don't feel like I was doing enough, as a teacher. Like, you can only but do so much, and you can't with virtual learning. So I don't find it to be effective as a teacher, but it really, there's kids that it was beneficial for.
I agree with that. I haven't started this year yet, but I do remember from March until June where it's like we're all trying to adjust. And I think as teachers, we frequently know how to adjust, even if it's like we plan a whole lesson and something happens and we change the whole lesson within 5 minutes. But one of the biggest things, or I guess challenges, was maintaining those relationships. And I know when you go from being in class with 25 plus children to we'll see you hopefully next week or in 2 weeks, and then it turns out to months later where this is how school is starting. I know that it was very inconsistent. I know there are some students that actually thrived on being home and they got a chance to, like, you can see where, I guess it's not that you don't get to like check in with them during the day, but you see where there's like a little bit more of their personality coming out when you can check in with them, but that's more of a focus on like their social and emotional learning rather than what's taking place academically. Like, yes, work is still being done, but maintaining those relationships where even if it's like a small group conference where it's like, okay, 5 to 10 minutes, we'll talk about like, how are you feeling? Because it's great, like, yes, do your work, but at this time we need to focus on how you're feeling. Because imagine being in the building, if you're sick, as an adult, if you're sick, you can't be your best. So imagine being like home and all of this is happening around you, and you're as a child, you may know something's happening, but people are shielding you from what's taking place. So checking in with them before saying, okay, well, did you complete your work? And again, for some students, like that work, it was very hard to get done because of the home situation, then tech issues. So like, again, I haven't started yet, but I know those are, the few things that I have in my experience with remote learning.
I'd like to add to that because I'm 2 weeks, like about 2.5 weeks or so into the school year. Without giving a long-winded answer, I think Omar hit the nail on the head. As of right now, there really isn't enough reliable data to suggest that remote learning is effective. So what happened over here in the spring was that the whole process, the whole system of transitioning from face-to-face to online, we were granted a lot of leniency and grace because it was such a quick turnaround. So it was kind of like, let's just get through this and be on our merry way and just hit the reset button. So what my district, Fort Benton ISD, did, as well as other districts, they put more of a structured system in place to where the schedules make time for synchronous learning, which is real-time online learning, live teaching, and then asynchronous, which they would use that time to work on assignments and homework and things of that nature. There's so many variables as to why teachers are frustrated. I have bags under my eyes. You can see that. We are frustrated. We are tired. Parents are tired. They are stressed. They are frustrated. They are overwhelmed. Why? Because it is not a one-size-fits-all approach. I don't care what kind of decisions they make, what kind of schedules they have. I have SPED students. I have 504 students who need accommodations. We can do our best to provide these accommodations like virtually, but the fact of the matter is there's a lot of kids who need that face-to-face physical interaction, and then they need the brain breaks. I do like the way the schedule is set up to where I'm teaching live for 40 minutes and then they have, maybe a 2-hour asynchronous block to work on other things. But the issue is where's this is a whole other thing, but where is the reliable data or the validity when they're turning in assignments and it's like 100 all across the board? We don't know if how much parents are assisting them or doing the work for them. We have deadlines to meet because we have to input grades, but then that's not giving us an opportunity to give parents the grace that they need, because every household is different. Everybody has a different schedule. So there's just so many factors, so many variables as to why this whole situation is stressful. We are doing the best, but at the end of the day, we are only human. You know what I mean? We need grace just as much as the parents do. These children, like the first thing in the morning, I know we're supposed to give enrichment time and whatnot, but I start off with a conversation. What did you have for breakfast? How was your weekend? They're missing that face-to-face component. So I feel like
social interaction, you feel like that's getting lost with this whole virtual learning thing, or you guys are just, it's up to the teacher really to maintain that, right? To teach that social interaction or keep up with it, like Teresa said.
Yeah, and I'm doing the best I can, and my colleagues, we're doing the best that we can, but we're stressed, man, because it's almost as if, to think positively, I know there is light at the end of the tunnel. I know this isn't going to last forever, but when is this going to end? You know what I mean? When are things going to go back to normal, quote unquote?
Yeah. Well, I know I've heard a few things from a few parents around me, and that's like, some people are even saying that their kids are losing touch with that social, like they're losing their social interactive skills. They'll go and they'll just like not be able to speak to a stranger anymore because they're so used to being home around their parents that when a stranger does pop up, it's just strange for them. Literally stranger. They're strange. So is that something that you guys have experienced with any of your students or heard from any of your students?
Nah, not really. I mean, school started for me this week officially, so being back in the classroom and the way everything's set up already seems surreal, right? So it's more or less, okay, how is this going to work? Like that's how it is in the classroom. That's the feel I get. You know what I mean? So they're trying to like figure things out just as much as we are. So haven't really got that type of dialogue from them yet. It's just more or less okay. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't seem real. This shit seems like, so I don't know if I can curse.
Nah, you did good.
It's like, it seems like a sci-fi movie almost. Yeah. Like today, like trying to like enunciate my W's over my mask. It was like a task in itself. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem real. And this is where we are. But as far as that, like there hasn't been dialogue, but it's just more or less like, okay, how are we going to get through this?
Right.
Can I add one more thing? I forgot to bring this up with the launch of online learning for this particular school year. It was very strange, obviously. But one of the biggest hurdles, and it still continues to be a hurdle because we have to continuously troubleshoot, is the technology, okay? Not everybody has a consistent Wi-Fi connection or internet connection. Not everybody is using the same type of device. So when I'm sharing my screen, whatever I'm projecting may not be the same as what the kids are seeing on their end, or, you know, the issue with the mics, you know, like just it's just a whole myriad of issues. And, you know, the best I can do is take it day by day. And I have an extremely supportive team. Shout out to my third grade team. But it's one of those things, man. We can't kill ourselves over it. We want to do the best that we can for our kids, but at the same time, I need my mental health because I have a family at home.
But what kind of resources do each of your schools have? Like when it comes to technology, is there like, what if there's a student that doesn't have access to technology at all? Doesn't have a laptop, doesn't have a computer. What's the approach there? Do you guys have like does your school give you a strategic like plan around that, or what happens in that case?
I know before my school was very very hands-on in ensuring that students had tech. I know the DOE was supposed to issue tech. That didn't go as perfectly as they thought it would. But even just to add on to Lewis, I'm thinking about like the tech issues. Like in the classroom before all this happened, if a student had issues with tech, we can go right over and fix it. When you're looking at a student through the screen and they're saying like, my mic is not working, and then you have to quickly think, okay, I don't know their system, but let me try to figure out how to best troubleshoot so I can continue with the lesson. And then they don't panic, you start to panic. And then like if it happens in a group setting, you don't want that child to feel like, why doesn't my computer work? I also think about, like you said, and I'm not a parent, but I think about the parents that have multiple children trying to make sure that all of their kids have access to what they're doing in school during the day and work on top of that.
Josh says that the DOE gave out iPads with no hotspot or internet.
Very true. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's enlightening. Because our district over here, they gave out iPads and hotspots and things like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah, same for my school. They gave out Chromebooks and hotspots.
Yeah, I wonder what the thought process was around that. They gave out the iPad, but no way to connect. I mean, they had the resource. It's like the cheeseburger without the cheese or the peanut butter no jelly. They gave them the one, but not everything else.
Right. That's
strange. And then we have another question coming in from Sabrina. She said, "How have you guys prepared yourself to go back?"
Oh boy, man, what a doozy this summer was.
Let's start with Brianna. Have you done anything?
Well, I don't start until the 9th, I believe. I start on the 9th officially, but today was our first day back for PD, and I don't even know. I thought I prepared myself until I walked into the building and like the first meeting happened. The first meeting happened, but then it went back to 0%. Like I'm really not prepared. Like I want to be there for my kids. I'm just trying to figure out the best ways that I could create a classroom environment that's welcoming. And it's like, you know, they want to talk to me and they don't just want to stare at the screen and just go, yes, no, maybe so, I don't know. Like that's the hardest thing that I would think about. It's just going back. And I don't really care about the work. I know I'm a teacher. I could accommodate with the work and I can figure that out on that side. But it's like, what comes first? And you said creating an environment that comes, you know, talking to them, having conversation. But I'm also on a, what do you call that? A schedule. Like I can't talk about their health their entire day or check in with them. But I kind of want to make sure that I do one-on-ones this year or kind of do small groups that if I can, just to make sure that I'm talking to at least 4 people at a time instead of I have 18 kids this year. That's it. But still, just small group talk. So just writing things down, making sure that I have a clear mind and I'm not being overwhelmed. Because once I'm overwhelmed, I second.
So, Des, how about you? Have you thought about any way to how have you prepared to go back?
Alcohol, probably, but no. You know what? I'm just. And we've been having meetings, and I'm not having any expectations because I don't know what I'm going to walk into, and I'm just like I have to kind of go with the flow, and I'm preparing myself to do that. You know, obviously, the kids are coming in person for the DOE September 21st, so we'll have 2 weeks before we even really see them, and then September 14th, I believe, we do remote. So. There's a lot of shifting, even with the curriculum, because I teach global and government and economics, and I always went based on things went in chronological order, you know. And now with COVID-19, a lot of big issues to COVID-19, and then even with the issue of racism, which I have to talk about, that will be something that I'm going to have to probably touch and switch and add into my curriculum as well. So. I think when I get there next week, I'll have a little bit more time to kind of sit down and figure out how I'm going to be able to teach.
A little feedback with the phone.
I know.
Yeah, I think what's been happening with around me, I've been seeing from friends of mine who like are dealing with, I think. They feel like their teachers aren't prepared. I mean, I don't think there's a way to even like have a right way to get ready to go back. You know, like it's just like me getting ready to go back to work and like in general has been like a mission in my mind and trying to like structure things and how things are going to be. I even picture what it's going to be like coming home after the first day, what that's going to feel like. I don't know if there's like a right answer to that. you know, it's just really rolling with the punches, like Omar said, like it's really just making it up as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on your setting and where you're at too. Because I know our district, when we came back for PD, it was like 6 to 7 days of just really intense information and overabundance of information being thrown at us because we had to get trained on
PD, personal development.
Yeah, professional development. So yeah, it was just like an overabundance of information that we had to process in such a short amount of time because there were all these technical competency skills that we had to complete. We had to know this software, this program, grading. There was just a lot in a short amount of time. And what made it even more challenging was the fact that I can't plan in a physical way with my colleagues. Everything was just either through Zoom or Microsoft Teams. And, you know, that's all fine and dandy, like the way we're interacting with each other now, but things take a lot longer. That's what it is. It's just that's just the reality of it. It just takes so much longer when you're not around the person.
Yeah. Yeah, the virtual thing is pretty strange. It's really like, and it's also like the whole like, you know, honor system too. I guess you guys have to deal with like what kind of structure is there around. I think Louis, you touched upon it a little bit. Just how do you know that the kid is actually going to do the work, or when they don't do the work, what's the procedure there? Like, what is your role as a teacher to make sure that they get the job done, and they're not just going to like their cousin or their parents and just parents are giving them the answers and stuff like that. So that's another dynamic that I've heard through the pipeline. Another question just came in. Do you guys feel like it's safe? Do you feel like schools are opening up too soon, and do you feel like it's safe to go back?
I think to Lewis's point, I think it depends on it depends on the school, depends on the district. I know for my school, the way we set it up now, it's pretty safe. They clean daily. It's pretty well. It's pretty well ran. But that's just one out of how many, right? So I just think if we prepare for the kids with their health and their lives in mind, I think we will, I don't know. This shit is crazy. I don't know.
To put it in layman's terms, right? I think
about disinfecting, like today, for example, a kid got up, right? And he went to another seat. I had to disinfect his seat.
That's it.
Like it's
how he gets up.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like how the aftermath of this, I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Like how would this shape us after? Like, because this is surreal still. You know,
we're literally writing the book, right? Like if this ever happens again, God forbid, we are going to refer back to COVID-19 and that time that COVID-19 hit.
Right.
And that's one thing I told my students today. I'm like, you guys are part of history right now. You guys walking in this school, like all around the world, like this is something that you should not take for granted and have some type of pride with going forward, because this is some historical stuff that's happening right now, whether we believe in it as far as us coming back to school, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? If the NBA players can play in a bubble, I guess we can teach in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing about my campus is, well, I should say the district first. There's a set of employees that are considered vital, my lady Karen included, but anybody who's an administrator, front office staff, sped teachers, not to mention, so they have to be at campus. So they have invited all of the sped students and all the students who need those accommodations and who need to physically be in the classroom. They're there. And then of course, some schools in my district opened up learning centers that provides like childcare essentially for teacher parents and essential workers and things of that nature. But to answer that question, it's the way when I walk into the building with Tate, I'm feeling okay because there's not a lot of people, and they're the custodial staff, they're all following protocol and disinfecting, doing whatever. But if they were to open up again, right, at this juncture, like let's just say within the next 2 weeks or even a month, I would not feel comfortable because I just think that's way too many people being put at the risk of exposure.
And you mean like a full open, right? Not like a soft opening, like just like open the door, school is back in session.
Well, it would be a soft open anyway. It would be like a very slow transition. So I know that there's going to be a survey being released relatively soon, just asking teachers if they feel comfortable with face-to-face or just continuing what they're doing with the virtual learning. I'm not a fan of what I'm doing now, but I don't want to do it at the expense of my health and my family's health either. Yeah. So it's kind of like one of those things where at this point, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if I don't see a vaccine or any type of cure, I just think it's too soon. That's just me.
Yeah, I think that's the common or the general consensus that everyone feels like it's too soon. I'm not a teacher, so I can't relate it to teaching or anything, but in my office, I'm responsible for reopening the office. We sent out a survey, and the response is basically no one wants to go back. Everyone is really ready to continue to work from home for the foreseeable future. And a lot of that in New York City, especially, is just mass transit. Like if there was a way to teleport from home to the office, I feel like the numbers would be higher. But people like not feeling comfortable about jumping on the train or the bus. I think that ties in as well. And I think that's like where the breeding ground would be for COVID-19. There's a lot of close contact. I don't think the MTA or any mass transit system is well equipped to kind of keep every single strap hanger safe. So that's another dynamic that you have to consider. I think in Texas, most people drive, with the exception of a few, right, that take public transit to work. To school. Lewis?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Most people drive, right, in Texas, or are there any people that do mass transit?
Nah, there's no mass transit, at least in these areas, because this is all suburban. So yeah, everybody drives. Okay. And then for like kids that need to go to school, it's the bus and things like that. But yeah, there's no the infrastructure for transportation is so much different over here. You don't have subways unless you go to like downtown Houston, but there's like no subways or anything like that here. Yeah.
And Omar touched on this briefly, but the next question: what safety protocols or procedures do you see will be implemented when returning face to face, or before returning face to face? Is that something that you came up with on your own, or is that like a standard procedure in your school, Omar?
Oh, that's the standard procedure of the school. It's crazy because I just assumed that was this procedure. Like if somebody got up, then you just wipe the desk. I don't know. Well, that was my procedure. But as far as like overall, you have to make sure. Well, we have I don't know how to describe it, but we have like this type of glass. Each desk has them, right? So
you guys have the partitions already?
Yeah, we got partitions. There we go. So it's like, and they're like oversized, but it does the job. And with every other desk, that's kind of like the 6 feet. So there's sometimes it's 3 desks or 1 desk that's separating, but each desk has a partition. And that's been the norm. And that's something we have to grapple over because our, as teachers, as you guys know, we have that, that when we do that aggressive, looking at work and things like that, aggressive monitoring, things like that. You can't really do that now. You know what I mean? So that's another thing, so you can't really gain that, that relationship, I guess, because you have to, you have that other barrier. You know what I mean? So that's part of the whole thing of we have to learn different, we have to teach different. So it was kind of like we're thinking about it, we're doing it on the fly,
There's no like packet that went out or some type of email or instructional something that lets you know when we go back to school, this is what's going to happen. This is what happens when we have a certain amount of people in the classroom. I know I'm implementing in my office capacity limit, like 25% of the total capacity of like all of the employees. Is that something you guys are doing from a safety perspective from your schools? Like, are they limiting the amount of students per classroom?
Yeah, so we have a schedule in my school. So as of right now, that it's their choice. The survey went out about asking whether you wanted to come into school, you wanted to stay remote for the entire school year, or whether you wanted to do a hybrid. So you stay home and then you do remote as well. But as of right now, I only have, I think, about 4 kids that actually said they wanted to come in for a hybrid, and that's out of my entire class. So we did ask if they wanted to come in, and a lot of them don't. So, but we do have a capacity. Not everybody can come in at the same time. We would have to follow a schedule based on the last names and whether you have an IEP or special education services and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah, with us, we're doing a hybrid type of plan where certain, which I don't, once again, no expectations. I don't know how that's going to work, but 1 week we'll see the kids 3 days that week, and then the other 2 days will be a different class, and then it'll swap the next week, where it'll see the kids you saw less week 1, you'll see more in week 2, and the kids you see more in week 1, you'll see less in week 2, and then the kids that are remote will stay remote, and then the kids that have to be there every day, because we have kids on the spectrum that need to be in school every single day. That's mandated. So like those kids you'll see every day, but then there'll be kids that you'll see more 1 week, but not and less the following week. So once again, I don't know how that's going to work with their cognition, because some of these kids need to be in school every single day. I don't know how effective that's going to be, but that's one of the protocols I was taking. I know they talked about having lunch in classrooms, which that's a whole nother can of worms. Masks for everybody. That's a whole nother can of worms. Having the kids keep the mask on. I don't know how that's going to be. So
well, they take the mask off.
Right. So thank you. I knew I was gonna happen. It was gonna happen, but it's. Yeah. So partitioning. I think those are some of the I heard, but yeah.
There's also the completely remote aspect. I know that it went from like the blended model to so many parents feeling like, well, I just want my child to be remote. Like if other things are not opening around the city, then why would you expect for me to send my child?
Yeah, that's very true.
Well, one of the protocols that we currently have for people that are working on the campus, this is district wide, not just my campus, but we have to complete like a wellness survey. It takes like a minute to complete on your phone. And then it's just basically asking you if you're feeling any symptoms, blah, blah, blah. You have to take a screenshot of it. And then when you get to the front entrance, they have to take your temperature. So it's more of a lengthy process now. And then if you're above 99, they won't let you in.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are some of the safety measures that are being taken.
And Christina asked, how do you guys feel about physical contact in the classroom, like giving high fives and hugs?
Shout out to Ms. Chowdhury, because she's actually a 4th grade teacher at my campus.
Oh, thanks for tuning in, Ms. Chowdhury. We appreciate your presence and your questions too. So how do you guys feel about her question? Like, are you guys like police and the physical contact police? Like, how do you guys feel if somebody was like hasn't seen each other? These kids haven't seen each other in months. Like, what's your response to that if they like run and give each other a hug? Are you gonna like
for the kids doing it or for us?
Well, both. I guess both, because
okay. Find out. It's I don't know. I don't know how you're in school. Have you done it yet?
I do air fives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Air fives or elbows. It's difficult, but I mean, so for me, I'm very hands-on. So during writing, I saw a kid like make a mistake, a grammatical error, and I'm always the one to like take their pen and listen, dude. And I couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the physical contact, things like that you're accustomed to. If you're one of those type of teachers where you're, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that anymore. So it's kind of like you're, as Rissa said, like you're just changing on the fly, and it's like it's challenging you as a teacher to like alter it maybe. So it's just it's so that's been difficult, especially for teachers who are like really hands-on with their students.
Yeah, I was the king of high fives with all my fist bumps with all my students and stuff. Like what I wouldn't do for a hug from another human being right now. I mean, obviously outside my family, but yeah, what I wouldn't do for a handshake, high five, a hug, because I think we all need that. You know what I mean? I give my kids virtual hugs now, but that's about it.
I remember, again, before all of this happened, kids I didn't even know just running up, Miss Whitley, and I'm like, hey, oh my God, remember their name? And I'm like, I don't even know their name, but let's hug it out. And I'm like, do I know them? But it's just like that comfort of knowing, like, hey, there's an adult in the building that I trust, that I'm excited to see every day, that my sibling had, that I may have next year. And again, that'll be different. Even through virtual learning in the spring, it's just like, we can sit and like send an emoji on a chat, during like a small group conference, but that's it. And then even again, I teach elementary school. So if I send like a smiley face or I send like a sad face, they're like, you know how to do that? So I'm like, well, let's get excited about the little things. Like, teach me how to do other stuff. Like, we can't do the same, but I'm like, or I'll sending a virtual hug. And then even like, I think when, kids have a bad day and they just need a hug, like that even changes now.
Might have to go the route of Demolition Man with the you can't even get really real fives anymore. That's such a strange dynamic. I wonder how long like this thing is gonna last, because for the foreseeable future right now, you're not allowed to touch anyone. And everyone's they get the skeebies if you even like brush up against them. That's crazy. Ms. Chowdhury had another question. She said, are your districts revising grading requirements with online learning and or schedule demands with disinfecting, etc.?
Super question. Yeah, I know with us, and I think they're going to continue. No kid is failing. What we do is we give them like it's called an NX, and they just gives them more time to pretty much pass. So we have people that actually are, if they're going to be working out from home, they're going to be focused on just getting those NXs to pass.
That's how it was in the spring for us too. Going back to how they provided us with more leniency with the kids. So it was 1 of 3 grades. You either met standard, you did not meet standard, or you didn't engage at all. Meaning you didn't log in, you didn't sign into what the Schoology is our platform, but you didn't sign into Schoology to even check assignments. But fast forward now, where there's a little more structure, actually a lot more structure in place, we're going back to the numerical grades. So I'm waiting for those parents to get in an uproar when they start seeing incomplete assignments or missing work or zeros. I don't know. That's going to be something that's going to be very interesting the next couple of weeks.
How does that tie into like advancing to the next grade? Like, is that a complete now? Like, how do you decide if someone actually advances to the next grade with this whole scenario? Is it automatic now, or does someone really have to be like tremendously incompetent or not know what they're doing to be held back? Because I know that's something that's probably going to come to people's mind. Returning to school with the limited amount of knowledge that they're going to have now, because they've been virtually learning or not for this long. Is there like criteria around that now?
These are ongoing conversations. I don't know 100% what they plan on doing for the kids at the end of the year who didn't meet grade expectations. I would imagine that there's going to be some type of summer school in place, even if it is virtual. But that's just me speculating. But yeah, that's very interesting to even think about, because I'm sure these conversations are being had on literally a daily basis.
I know before there was a focus on growth rather than just numbers, especially because grades were no longer like 4, 3, 2, 1. It's again the MET did not meet scale. But then what do you do for like those kids that couldn't show up or didn't show up for whatever reason? But I think, growth is a big part of it. Also, there are some students where making progress is a criteria for promotion.
That's true.
And Desmond, is it different for you teaching 12th grade? Like, how do you determine if someone graduates in this environment?
I will tell you right now, this is probably, if I'm a 12th grade kid right now, that was the easiest time in the world that you'll ever get, because there was no regents that they had to pass. That was late. It was all they literally had to do was hand in work, and you got the green light to go to graduate. That was literally what you have to do. There was nothing else. You didn't have to worry about the regents. You didn't have to worry about really any demanding work. So I don't know what the future of that looks like. If that's going to prepare them for the next level, I really don't. And it probably isn't, because they didn't get the case. But this is what they have to do. You know, everything was waived. They just really had to hand in work, and that was it. So
they didn't get the full experience that they normally would. I have a question coming. We actually asked a question that came in from Instagram as well. Is there anything parents can do on their end to make your lives a little easier as teachers?
I say just be patient with us, and just be patient. We're always going to be able to communicate back and forth, especially if we're doing remote learning. It's just we have a lot on our plate on our side, and most of us are really going through it right now. So it's definitely different, and it's something to adjust to, and we don't have answers all the time. We're just going with the flow. So I just say be patient.
That's good advice too.
I think also when it comes to different points within the year, like the beginning, don't expect the same as last year. And it doesn't mean the same amount of care or concern or rigor, but things will look different. And again, going back to adjusting, like we're trying, and this is more than just like preparing for the classroom, like also our mental health is a factor, like the same for parents. These are things that we're taking into account to still be the best teachers that we can possibly be, and partners with parents as well.
And to piggyback off of that, we're not just dealing with a pandemic here. Like, we have to be clear. Like, we're also dealing with social injustice, and we're dealing with PTSD from that. So I think everything needs to be put in perspective, right? Because there's a lot of things we're all dealing with. So I think it's patience is needed on both ends. You know,
it's just like a whole shitstorm of things going on right now on top of COVID-19.
And I think, as you know, you guys all said, we have to work together in this. Like, some teachers are parents themselves, so we're also dealing with that, and we're more learning with our kids and having to deal with that, plus dealing with your kids. You know, so it's a lot of take on both ends, and we all really have to just be patient, work together, understand that thing. You know, we're trying to touch on all aspects: mental health, the virus, learning, education. We all just really have to kind of be patient in that sense.
For this weekend, what parents can do on their end to make my life easier, you can send me as much bourbon as you want.
Go back to the alcohol. How do you deal with it? Alcohol.
Seriously.
We have Sharmia Punter with a question. She's asking, how are you all dealing with this? We kind of touched upon this, but she just wanted to say teacher wellness matters. She knows education of our kids is important, and so is your peace of mind as teachers. Are there any wellness plans in place for you all as teachers?
Does she mean like formal wellness plans, like from our school districts and things like that, or just
I'm assuming like maybe like your actual schools, do they have any wellness plans in place for the teachers to help them kind of deal with what's happening? And Sharmia, I hope I'm saying your name right. If correct me if I'm wrong, if I misread that, but I think she's saying, have your schools put together any wellness plans for you guys? Any programs for teachers to kind of deal with what's happening right now?
I think that's what you mean. Shout out to Sharmia, actually. I taught her son back in Bed-Stuy.
Oh, dope. Thanks for tuning in, Sharmia. I appreciate it.
We have like, social workers on hand. I know at our school where I am. So, but I think we all, it depends upon the coach and the staff, I guess. Because I know from our school, we only have like, I guess, the social work, but then we have like, different people we confide in and things like that. But everybody has their thing that they do to like, get theirs in. You know, so
it's basically all personal. Like you guys
yeah, it depends.
doing it on
Yeah.
your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I would think they would have something like that in place. They probably haven't thought that far, though. They probably are just focused on getting back to school, and of course the students are important. But you know, to her point, I think the teacher's wellness is important as well. I think that should be something that should be develop a wellness plan or some kind of wellness space for you guys, even when you guys reopen the doors. A place that you can go to kind of like meditate or just get your mind right.
Yeah, I mean, even when I every day, you know, when I talk to my colleagues and stuff, like, I try to reassure them, like, it will be okay. We are stressed, we are overwhelmed, and it feels like the ceiling is literally coming down on us. But at the end of the day, y'all got to take care of yourselves, because you're no good to the students who we're trying to serve. You can't set them up for success if you're a hot mess, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? So you go home, just don't think about work. I know, and that's difficult for us teachers because we always put in overtime, even on weekends and holidays. But you need that time to yourself, whether it's exercise, video gaming, or just spending family time. Like, you need that time because that is so critical, especially during a time like this, for you to be able to recharge your batteries and get up the next day and do what you need to do. So I think that component and that aspect of wellness is just so critical right now.
One question I was thinking of is I know that Omar and Des, they both deal with physical education or, you know, coaching to some aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
How has that changed since this whole situation hit? Like, are you guys doing virtual classes with that too, virtual teaching? Like, how's that going? Or is that just like a complete dud right now?
You want to go there?
So I also have this organization which I run outside of here, and that kind of took a hit because I can't really be in a gym, or for a while we couldn't even go to parks.
Mm-hmm.
So just trying to get my players and to kind of come and work out was a mission. Going into the fall, I haven't had any update as to like when we can start. I know from what I heard, I know they're going to push fall sports back at the PSAL, and then I'm sure if they do that, winter sports like basketball are going to be pushed back even more. So it's been tough because I want to get my guys want to get back on the court. They want to work out.
Yeah.
I send them a lot of just individual stuff that I kind of was doing online and virtual things in the park, just having them work on certain drills, whatever they can do. But it goes down to like them being on the court and being with their friends and being with people that they know and playing is a part of games and sports that our kids need, man. They've already been cooped in the house for months, not being able to do it. So now, like, to take that away again is going to be tough. So I really hope everything comes around and kids are able to play this fall, which I think they're going to do, God willingly, But.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I know I work out with kids, and the funny thing is they've been like reaching out to me throughout and like, oh, can we work out? But it's like, hey, man, it's the rims ain't up. And once the rims got up, it was like they took their time with it. So they were up in certain spots, but not in this area. So by the time everything got up, school was trickling down, and then schedules was just changed. So it was difficult. So definitely, like, the kids who love the sport, they kind of suffer because all they had was, and all they had was the small spaces in their apartments. But comparison to other people in there, it's difficult. I mean, it was rough for everybody in all capacities. It was rough.
Yeah,
it was one thing you can say. Everybody was affected. Doesn't matter what status you were, celebrity, whatever, you were affected by it. So
doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
We're approaching an hour, so I want to be mindful of your time and those tuned in. Thank you for everyone that tuned in and for sticking with us. I know I usually try to keep it to 30 minutes, but I knew this wasn't going to be 30 minutes. It's an important topic, and I had, a great group of people to speak. I wanted to give them the chance to speak all together. So I want to touch on final thoughts. It kind of ties into Karen's question as to what advice you would give to teachers that are feeling uncertain and what do not know what to expect. But if you want to give your final thoughts on returning to school and the whole environment right now, we can just go around and just do that if you guys are cool with it.
Cool.
I'll start with Teresa.
I haven't. I'm looking at the screen too. I haven't started the school year, but I would just say to not be so hard on yourself. I think as teachers, we have a plan, and sometimes things don't go as expected as we plan it. But for us to also be flexible in every way, and know that like we have support systems. Like even this, just being able to sit as part of this forum and talk to other teachers. Just reach out, be flexible, reach out to people. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Okay. I'm just gonna jump around. Des, you got any advice?
Yeah, so we start next week. So just really don't have any expectations. That's kind of how I'm going into this. I'm not trying to expect anything, not from administration, staff, kids. I just want to kind of go with the flow, and really know to take care of myself before, and as teachers, the advice I give to teachers is just get your mental health ready, because there's going to be a lot of different changes, and we could start off and be in person. It could possibly go back to remote, for everybody. So we don't know, and I think we have to kind of go in with that mentality and know that we all got to work together, parents as well, be on the same page. Just, be patient with us. We'll be patient with you. And, I think hopefully things will get better. So
dope. I'm going to jump to Brianna.
I would say, like you guys said earlier, to have an outlet. I easily got stressed when we first started remote learning. So, it took a toll because it was something to adjust to. And it's just like, I don't want them to realize that I'm stressed because I'm trying to be there for them. So I don't want them to see that. And, you have to put on a face and make sure you get everything done within the day. So make sure you have an outlet, a healthy one. and then I would also say, to a certain extent. But I would also say keep in touch with your parents, because I had a hard time with that, adjusting, because I didn't want to bother them all the time, because we have 2 5th grade teachers in my school, and my partner, she was calling way more than I was, and then I have siblings from her class as well. So it's like I didn't want the parents to think that I was over calling because she was already calling. So I know we have different kids. It's just you have to develop a plan that makes you feel comfortable, because I also don't like talking on the phone. I really don't. I only call my parents if something is like, it needs to be talked over the phone or whatever. I'm scheduling conferences. But other than that, I'd rather prefer texting. So I had to get used to that, using my own personal cell phone. I did use that last time because I needed to contact them more faster. So I guess develop a plan that is healthy for you and the parents, and to not annoy them, and, make sure you're on the same page, because if your child was failing and they don't know that, then, it's always going to come back on you in the end. So, yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. Omar, I'm going to jump to you.
It's just simple. Just remember your why. Remember why you wanted to teach. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's simple as that, because now I feel like this separates, the teachers who are like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. Every school ain't Dangerous Minds. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's real out here. So it's just a matter of what are you going to do now to the minds who are suffering, you know what I'm saying, from what they're seeing on TV, how they're being depicted, to their families who died from COVID. How are you going to step up? Because now we are serving all. You know what I mean? So the why is important to me. So I feel like for new teachers, now it's for you to really, dissect that, you know what I'm saying, and think about, why did I get into teaching?
Yeah, for sure. Now more than ever.
Yeah.
And then last, I'll end with you, Lewis.
So I think the 2 most important things that teachers can demonstrate to your fellow teachers, to your parents, as well as your administrators are grace and patience. Because we didn't really touch on this, but administrators, it is not fun to be a principal or an assistant principal right now.
Right.
These folks are working literally round the clock just to disseminate information or make things a little easier as far as what information we need to know. But at the same time, they're compounded with deadlines, which has a trickle effect and a chain reaction to us, which then in turn has a trickle effect on our students and the parents. So, just please be considerate of how hard everybody is working, and communicate that to your parents too. Whether it's meet the teacher event or an open house, just communicate. We're only human. You know what I mean? So you have to, I ask that you show patience because I'm trying to navigate this as much as you are, and just have that level of grace for your colleagues and for everyone who's struggling with this and trying to make it as successful as possible.
Dope. Well, I appreciate all of you guys' advice. We have a comment that was advice for you guys from Jay. Jay is actually my college advisor.
What's up, Jay?
He just a question, just a comment. Keep your heads up and your eyes on the prize. This too shall pass. And just being overly positive will help your students more than you know. There will be opportunities to catch up, but your positive attitudes will matter. So Jay, thanks for the positive comment. Jay was always that guy, man.
Yeah.
Positive comment and giving us, that motivation we needed. That's definitely great advice. And you guys gave great advice as well. Last minute comments, people are thanking you for your hard work, and thank you personally from me for joining. And my sister wanted to say hi, Brianna, and said that you were great.
Hi. For doing this, Eric.
Tiffany wanted to say thank you. Awesome talk and great closing. And last comment from Sharmia. As a parent, I'm praying for you all. Racial issues, crime, finances, COVID, it's a lot. Stay encouraged. Take a break if you have to. Scream, cry, and your wellness is important. You are heroes. We are in this together. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming out and taking the time. I know this is a little long and a little late, but I really appreciate you guys and all the advice. And thank you for giving me personally the insight from a teacher's head. Like I honestly, I'm so far removed from it. I have no idea what you guys are going through, and you guys are the bravest people I know right now, and I appreciate you guys. So thanks for jumping on. I and everyone that tuned in for your comments and your questions. I know I had a good time talking to you guys, and just be safe out there, man. Good luck in the rest of the school year. And, if this really blows up, maybe we'll do a part 2 if you guys are interested.
Yo.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Word, man. Appreciate it, man.
All right.